During World War II and the constant bombing of London, it was believed by many military strategists of air power that major victories could be won by attacking industrial and political infrastructure, rather than purely military targets. Strategic bombing often involved bombing targets inhabited by civilians, and some campaigns were deliberately designed to target civilian populations in order to terrorize and disrupt their usual day-to-day activities. The Nazis needed a weapon that could strike more individual key targets, plus gaining the fear factor over their enemies. The Nazis also had at their disposal the help of many top scientists, who were involved in the first steps of rocketry engineering and development, which much later would become an instrumental key component in the space race. Research into military use of long-range rockets began in more depth when the studies and work of scientist graduate Wernher Von Braun attracted the close attention of the German forces, who quickly recognized his expertise to gain a foothold in the development of German rocketry. A series of prototype rockets culminated in the A4, which inevitably went on to become the V2 rocket, given the grim title of the Vengeance weapons, and quickly put into mass production, assigned to attack Allied cities as retaliation for the Allied bombings against German cities. Beginning in September 1944, over 3,000 V2 rockets were launched by the German Wehrmacht against Allied targets, first London and later Antwerp and Liège. According to historical records, the attacks from V2s resulted in the deaths of an estimated 9,000 civilians and military personnel, and a further 12,000 forced laborers and concentration camp prisoners died as a result of their forced participation in the production of the weapons. At the end of the war, teams from the Allied forces, the United States, the United Kingdom, and the Soviet Union raced to capture key German manufacturing sites and technology. Head scientist Wernher Von Braun and over 100 key V2 personnel surrendered to the Americans. Many of the original V2 team ended up working at the White Sands Proving Grounds in New Mexico. The US also captured enough V2 hardware to build approximately 80 of the missiles. The Soviets also gained possession of the V2 manufacturing facilities after the war, and re-established V2 production, moving it to the Soviet Union. It is said that the head German scientist Wernher von Braun had close ties with Friedrich Christian Anton Fritz, who was an Austrian-German-American filmmaker, screenwriter, and occasional film producer and actor. One of the best-known émigrés from Germany's school of Expressionism, he was later dubbed the Master of Darkness by the British Film Institute. Lang's most famous films include the groundbreaking futuristic Metropolis, 1927, which was way ahead of its time, but one of Lang's lesser-known films called Woman in the Moon, produced in 1929. This movie has remarkable similar scenes to that of the 1969 NASA Apollo moon rocket launches from Cape Canaveral in Florida. Whether you believe America went to the moon or not, it is certainly uncanny how similar these opening film sequences are, given the time span of nearly 40 years. Watch the two separate film segments so you can see the similarities for yourself. So as we can see between the two films, the Franz Lang movie, Woman in the Moon, and the 1969 NASA Apollo mission launch footage, an interesting and fascinating theme of similarities have been documented and established. Is this just mere fact and coincidental the two events happened this way, or was this a well-orchestrated master plan, waiting to be played out on the world stage before our very eyes? Not all images of UFOs turn out to be unidentified, and with thorough investigation and diligent research turn out to be a simple misidentification with credible proof. This misidentified image of a UFO captured by NASA astronauts on the way to the moon during the Apollo 12 mission is one such case. This image for decades now has been portrayed as an image taken by NASA Apollo 12 astronauts on their way to the moon of an unidentified craft that was taken during that mission, fact. But in reality was just a simple misidentification of the third stage segment of the Saturn V rocket used to get them there. Ufology folklore and the community has adamantly insisted for decades this image to be an unknown spacecraft which apparently showed interest and fascination in the space race to the moon during the late 1960s. When this image was painstakingly researched and evaluated in more depth, it quickly became apparent that things didn't add up. The original source image didn't even exist within NASA's own photographic archives. Viewing many other images taken at the same time period revealed the original source image for this UFO encounter and revealed it to be a simple misidentification photographed by the astronauts close to their lunar capsule in space.
Feet coming down at 5. Hey, look at that crater right where it's supposed to be. Hey, you're beautiful. 10%. 257 feet coming down at 5. 240 coming down at 5. Hey, you're really maneuvering around. Yeah. Come on down, Pete. Okay. 10% fuel. 200 feet coming down at 3. Need to come on down. Okay. 190 feet. Come on down. 180 feet. 9%. You're looking good. Gonna get some dust before long. 130. 190 feet. Come on down. 180 feet. 9%. You're looking good. Gonna get some dust before long. 130 feet. 124 feet, Pete.
This interesting footage was taken during the final descent stage of the NASA Apollo 12 lander as it was about to land on the lunar surface. We can hear the astronauts describing in great detail the events unfolding during this historical event. Moments before the lander capsule is about to touch down, we can see a large distinguishable crater which appears to exhibit 3 separate illuminated anomalies almost in the vertical position. They look odd and not in keeping with the surrounding lunar surface. Could this have been an entrance tunnel or tunnel shaft? Another strange object is seen on the edge of the same crater, again very abnormal in appearance. These strange anomalies were captured briefly as the lunar lander flew low over the area and obviously not noticed by the astronauts as they had more important tasks to attend to. Conspiracy theorists and ufologists have alleged for many years that some Apollo astronauts had seen first-hand bases and UFOs on the moon but were told to keep quiet regarding their existence. Many photographs circulated on the internet and through lunar anomaly web pages claim to show strange structures on the moon, but NASA have not yet confirmed these anomalies to be credible or in fact true.
200 feet, coming down at 3. Need to come on down. Okay. 190 feet. Come on down. 180 feet. 9%. You're looking good. Gonna get some dust before long. 130. 190 feet.
NASA Apollo Mission 14 also had an unusual lunar encounter with an elliptical-shaped object, captured on film sitting motionless on the lunar horizon. One of the astronauts is heard clearly questioning what could the object be.
The flag being positioned about 20 feet from Antares. Okay. Roger, that's a good... Okay. How's your picture now? Roger, it looks good. Okay, bring it back in. Process because you won't be able to see it. Okay. Now, another picture to the right. Roger. Facing almost down sun. Roger, we got your shadow. And, the rocks are brighter in the view. Okay. What's that object in profile on the horizon? Roger. Facing almost down sun. Roger, we got your shadow. And, the rocks are brighter in the view. Okay. What's that object in profile on the horizon?
What was that strange elliptical-shaped object witnessed by the astronauts of Apollo 14? Nobody else was said to be on the lunar surface other than the Mission 14 crew members. So who or what was it, and why was it there? Upon analyzing frames taken from the original source footage, we can clearly see the object to be elliptical, almost disc-shaped in appearance, and by its positioning is either protruding out of the ground, or resting on the lunar surface itself at an approximate 45-degree angle. With the use of enhancement computer software, the image detail is vastly enhanced, showing the object to have structure and well-defined edges, and has obviously caught the attention of the observant astronauts.
What's that object in profile on the horizon? Yeah, powder. Hey, don't move back. I got the tripod over here. Okay?
That makes for easy trench digging.
Always thinking, huh, Joe?
Looking ahead.
Good. Okay, TV's coming off to go to the tripod. There it is. Don't step on it. I won't. Let me get this out of your way first, Joe. Yeah. But look at that little flash ball. It's running around. I gotta do my fan now. Yep. The crater here that I'm standing by, Joe, it's about a meter in diameter. And then there's a smaller crater right in the center of it, and that one has fragments around it that have glass exposed on them. Where the larger crater does not have any glass exposed. Just a smaller crater within the large one.
Roger, Jim, copy. And careful with the sun, Dave.
Yes, sir. Well, when I turn this thing back and point it at you, at 12 o'clock, it's going to be looking right into the sun. So you better think about that. Matter of fact, I think little discretion here might put it over about 10:30 or 11.
Roger, Dave, that sounds good.
I tell you, looking even that way, the sun angle, whoop, by golly, it's pretty bright. Joe, I'm going to swing the camera around towards the ground. Now it's pointing back at the limb, but down. I want you to take a look as I move it up slowly. Make sure that we're okay on what you see, okay?
Dave, we read all of that. We are getting a beautiful picture now. We're going to try to wind up with the tripod in the shade if that's possible, looking back towards the limb.
Many astronauts throughout the NASA Apollo program reported witnessing unexplained objects and phenomena, and Apollo Mission 15 crew members were no exception. During one radio comms communication between astronauts and ground control in Houston were heard saying, "Oh my God, you wouldn't believe it, these babies are huge, sir. Enormous. I'm telling you, there are other spacecraft out there, lined up on the far side of the crater edge. They're on the moon watching us." Upon analyzing multiple frames taken from the original source footage, again like the Apollo 14 mission footage, we can see this object is similar in appearance, and appears to be perched, or resting on the side of one of the large hills to the right of the astronauts and lunar module. This footage was taken by crew members on board the NASA Apollo 11 capsule upon leaving the lunar surface, back into lunar orbit. After their historical moonwalk, the object appears to be a singular illuminated object, spherical in appearance, and traveling at high velocity over the lunar surface. It is tracked visually and viewed for a few seconds, before disappearing out of sight into a large darkened crater below. Another possible explanation for this unexplained object could be space debris or a chunk of ice dislodged from the lunar capsule itself, but there has been no confirmation from NASA as to the nature of the anomaly. Not all images of space UFOs or strange anomalies are captured from NASA or Soviet spacecraft. Some are captured from space imagery and weather satellites positioned in orbit around the Earth. This interesting 16-frame sequence of images was taken by the Space Science and Engineering Center's Imagery Division, from one of their geostationary satellites in Earth's orbit, and appears to show a huge oval-shaped anomaly during December 28, 2017 between 12:15 and 12:45. The images were stitched together to produce this overall effect and unusual object. It has been widely discussed in the ufology community that this object could be a large mothership due to its colossal size. This interesting footage appears to show the infamous and mysterious space object nicknamed the Black Knight satellite. Is this really a satellite, or just space debris? Nevertheless, it is still unexplained to this day. Recently, a Russian cosmonaut took footage from the International Space Station of this mysterious object as it passed close by, appearing to be rotating 360 degrees, or possibly maneuvering itself into another positional orbit. Many ufologists believe the Black Knight is an alien satellite which has orbited Earth for over 13,000 years. In 1963, NASA astronaut Gordon Cooper supposedly reported a UFO sighting during his 15th Earth orbit in his Mercury 9 capsule, and his sighting was also confirmed by ground tracking stations. Also, a similar unexplained object photographed in 1998 during the STS-88 Space Shuttle mission was also widely claimed to be the Black Knight satellite. The origin of the Black Knight legend is often retrospectively dated back to natural extraterrestrial repeating sources heard during the 1899 radio experiments of the famous scientist Nikola Tesla, who was also said to be influenced by extraterrestrials. A simple misidentification of a UFO caught on the live feed footage, showing the SpaceX Dragon capsule docking with the International Space Station during 2018. Was this just a simple misidentified cluster of Earth lights and not a UFO that was spotted on the SpaceX Dragon's live feed before the footage was reportedly cut abruptly short? The revolutionary Dragon cargo spacecraft was on its way to the International Space Station when eagle-eyed television viewers noticed something strange on the live feed SpaceX television channel in the background. Upon further analysis of the very short and limited source footage, what looked like Earth lights are seen passing directly behind the docking capsule as it was preparing to hard dock with the International Space Station. The lights appear to be at a steady constant speed and transit and not deviating, an easy mistake to make. Not everything seen in space is a UFO, this time only in name, unidentified non-flying object. It is said the Earth's orbit is strewed with unidentified anomalies and space debris, with many objects being unexplained as to what they really are or their true identity. A NASA astronaut was left stunned when a large unidentifiable object flew past while he was working on the International Space Station. Video footage shows the moment Chris Cassidy radioed Mission Control to report the UFO flying past him. A small, round object can be seen making its way towards the artificial satellite as an orange glow trails, probably caused by either a sunset or sunrise, which the International Space Station crew witnessed 16 times in a 24-hour period. That fuzzy line hugging the planet, called the Terminator, is the boundary between day and night. On the ground, we experience the Terminator as dawn or dusk. Also, another angle reveals how the unknown object seems to be moving on a constant steady transit, before completely disappearing out of shot. Initially, the term space debris referred to the natural debris found in the solar system, asteroids, comets, and meteoroids. However, with the 1979 beginning of the NASA Orbital Debris Program, the term also refers to the debris from the mass of defunct, artificially created objects in space, especially Earth orbit. This object was unknown, but with the thousands of pieces of space junk which are tracked in Earth's orbit, it could be a non-tracked addition, so it gets its tag of UFO, unidentified flying object. Again, not all UFOs are seen around the International Space Station. Some have been captured around planets within our own solar system, and some appearing to exit our sun. A huge object, cylindrical in shape, was captured moving away from the sun at great velocity during the recent 2017 spectacular solar eclipse, which was seen by millions of people as it transited across America from coast to coast. Upon analyzing the source footage, it appears to resemble a spectacular sun flare, a quite common occurrence. But then a huge cylindrical-shaped object with structure appears from the sun flare region before accelerating away from the sun at great velocity. What was this huge object? Who did it belong to? And where did it go? This interesting piece of footage appears to have captured a small illuminated object passing very close to two astronauts while carrying out a standard rescue procedure exercise near the NASA Discovery Space Shuttle, mission STS-64. Listen closely to the audio between the astronauts and NASA comms as they discuss the object, which passes at a steady rate, disappearing behind the astronauts to then reappear behind the backpack of the astronaut on the right, traveling in a straight and direct transit. During the mission transmission dialogue, NASA comms states the object is just a camera lens, so why didn't the astronauts confirm this fact? Just by checking or even noticing the lens floating away beyond retrieval. If it was a piece of space debris or junk, surely it would be mentioned by all parties concerned because it could be identified. As all NASA personnel are highly trained to distinguish between known International Space Station equipment and objects, satellites and alike. The blooming effect of the shuttle camera lens is caused due to the shuttle about to cross from sunlight to sunset of the Earth. As the conversation continues on, the astronauts and NASA comms become hesitant and weary about continuing the conversation regarding the visible object, which is understandable, so they are basically told to ignore it, don't worry about it, and continue with their tasks.
You're next,
And as the crew members continue with this rescue demonstration of the Safer Unit, Discovery is across the North Sea portion of Europe, and just about to move from sunlight into sunset, thus the blooming effect of the camera lens.
looks like you got an object right in front of you, Mark. Can you look out there? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Never mind. Are we missing something? I don't see anything. Yeah, we think the camera filter came off, Mark. It's about your 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock going away. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Funny me, Mark. Can you look out there? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Never mind. Are we missing something? I don't see anything. Yeah, we think the camera filter came off, Mark.
A strange unknown triangular-shaped object appears to phase and then instantly blink out in a part second. It was captured on one of the International Space Station's external cameras. This very interesting but short piece of video footage appears to show the object, UFO, which appears in a semi-camouflaged mode. Blink and you'll miss it. It does appear triangular in shape and does look remarkably similar to the TR-3B secret covert craft, which is quite often seen widely around the world, which is also triangular in shape. Huge anomalies have been captured in orbit around Saturn's rings. They do appear to look like craft miles in length and size, but there is no information regarding the images, thus their authenticity cannot be confirmed. Dr. Norman Bergrun, a distinguished engineer who has worked with NASA and Ames Research Center in Moffett Field, California, said the rings of the planet are a massive meeting place for extraterrestrials. He claims alien UFO spaceships have started proliferating at a shocking rate on the planet's many rings, which are made up of spacecrafts and their exhaust fumes, but the world-changing evidence has been covered up at high level within the United States government. The former NASA engineer, who has written books on the ringmakers of Saturn, regarding his claims and done numerous interviews, believes the number of UFO crafts in the solar system had reached critical levels. Bizarrely, Dr. Bergrun claims the spaceships include living entities, which use the rings as a source of energy, and are multiplying and spreading to other planets such as Uranus and Jupiter, to name a few. He also won prestigious awards, including the California Society of Professional Engineers Archimedes Engineering Achievement Award. Dr. Bergrun, who served on the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics and worked with Lockheed Martin on high-profile and top-secret aerospace projects, first launched his theory in 1986 with his book Ringmakers of Saturn, but continues to promote it and is annoyed that scientists do not appear to be giving it any credence. He said, "What I found out is, these things inhabit Saturn, that's where I first discovered them, and they're proliferating. You can find them around Uranus and Jupiter. Wherever you see some rings, that's where I see the aircrafts. I call them a ring makers."
Some say the moon. Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too. We shall send to the moon 240,000 miles away from the control station in Houston, a giant rocket more than 300 feet tall, the length of this football field, made of new metal alloys, some of which have not yet been invented, capable of standing heat and stresses several times more than have ever been experienced, fitted together with a precision better than the finest watch, carrying all the equipment needed for propulsion, guidance, control, communications, food, and survival, on an untried mission to an unknown celestial body, and then return it safely to Earth, re-entering the atmosphere at speeds of over 25,000 miles per hour, causing heat about half that on the temperature of the sun, almost as hot as it is here today, and do all this, and do all this, and do it right, and do it first before this decade is out, then we must be bold.
So, following the crumbs of evidence scattered before you, could in fact lead you to believe that the NASA space program during the 1960s didn't start with the famous speech of US President JFK and his dream of an American moonshot, but did in fact start much sooner in conjunction with Germany and the Nazis' war machine. And if this too be true, it would have to make you seriously reconsider what other technical marvels have been achieved and not released to the population as a whole. Again, this isn't the question. Do you believe mankind went to the moon or not? But simply, did we merely have the technical know-how to venture beyond into the stars, and did mankind have outside help?